may have noticed that we changed the name. So these used to be the Sugar Shift Challenge calls, but we were just talking about the broad topics that we cover, and it's not always about sugar shift probiotics. A lot of it is about our metabolic health, and we do cover that, and we're certainly here at any time to answer those questions. But over the course of the 2 years that I've been doing this, it has become much broader, and it's more like a learning lab where we ask questions and we learn about things together. We bring people in sometimes I present. So the last time we had a meeting was in November, and I had talked a bit about the glycocalyx and these cleaning products, and people said they wanted to hear about that. So I'm going to get to that in just a minute. And I want to say that I'm very grateful to my friend Pam Holloway, who's on here sometimes. I don't know if I see her yet tonight, but she actually worked on this presentation for another presentation she did, and she is graciously let me borrow her presentation so that I didn't have to reinvent the wheel. And I only put one extra slide in there. So, first of all, for anybody who's new, welcome. I am Martha Carlin. I'm the founder of BiotiQuest Probiotics. I also am, if you don't know me, I'm fairly well known for my 20 plus years of work in Parkinson's and looking for, hello, Maha, looking for the answers to Parkinson's. I am excited to report that so I've been working on a Parkinson's paper that, we're calling sort of the new synthesis of Parkinson's, that we submitted to a journal at the beginning of December. We just got it back from the reviewers, and we have to make a few minor edits to it, but I think it's going to be accepted, and so we're pretty excited about that. We have to have our comments back by mid-February, so I would guess perhaps by March that paper will be available. And while it's kind of complicated, it's a big paper. It's about 70 pages long right now. I think we're going to have to cut it down a little bit, but it is showing the connections to kind of all of these pieces of the puzzle that we talk about in our learning lab, over the course. So it relates to many things beyond Parkinson's. So, and we do touch on that a bit in the paper, but what it does is connects the microbiome and damage to this glycocalyx that I'm going to talk to you about tonight as sort of a universal communicator and structure in the body that we've sort of been missing out on, and how many different factors can actually contribute to how that gets damaged. And then that presents in different types of symptom profiles. And so I don't know if, we want to take a minute if anybody has any open questions before I start talking to you about this. I can answer the questions, or we can wait until, we can wait until the end for questions. So, hey, Norma Jean, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I see a lot of familiar faces. I see some new names. I see, let's see, is it?
Gayle, you have a new haircut. I like it. Martha, that what you were just talking about, I missed the first part, but I actually just read something recently talking about the use of antibiotics and how that affects like fatty liver disease and other stuff like that. And I took antibiotics for 20 years every day. So I don't know how to get around it, but I kind of explain some things for me.
Yes, and I mean that is actually one of the kind of main clues for many years that I was looking at. I think I've talked about it some. Is that I knew, with my husband as a child, he had multiple strep infections and had taken lots of antibiotics. And then I actually went to, I mean, they're not around anymore, I don't think, but 23andMe, you used to be able to ask them if they would query their database, and they did a statistical analysis for me. And they actually showed that people who had 4 or more strep infections and taken antibiotics for it had a higher percentage or a higher risk of Parkinson's. But I think a lot depends on, the type of antibiotic, the timing of antibiotic, the resilience, but it just affects so much. It's and I won't go into that in depth tonight, but I do touch on that as something that actually can damage the glycocalyx. Maha, I see you have your hand up. You have to unmute yourself. Unmute yourself.
It's a related question, actually, because I decided to take 10 pills of antibiotic for 5 days for a condition that is just not quitting and hasn't quit in decades. So I'm doing this. I also have started some antidote yogurt, and I have some homeopathic frequency that helps me with antibiotics. I haven't taken antibiotics in so long. I just don't know when the last time was. My quick question is, I was thinking to take the yogurt, to make the antidote yogurt for a month. Would that be sufficient, even though I only take this, intended like this for 5 days? Is that enough?
I mean, typically, so we're actually doing a clinical trial in 2026 with the antibiotic antidote. I'm not absolutely certain on the timing, and with as crazy as the world is at the moment, that could get disrupted because we do our clinical trials in Cuba, but we'll see how that goes. But typically we recommend that people take the antibiotic antidote for 1 to 2 months, depending on, if they're feeling at the end of a month like they're kind of back to regularity, then 1 month is probably enough. I do have some people who were on IV antibiotics for, a month, 2 months, longer, and they've actually stayed on the antibiotic antidote as their everyday probiotic. So
well, I don't mind doing it for 3 months. I was just asking because I'm doing the yogurt anyway. So, okay, that answers me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love seeing you. Happy New Year to everyone. A year of live long, prosper, and be healthy. And happy joyous loving.
okay, and then I have a question on here from Richard O, the Talk to Me guy. If you aren't familiar with his radio show, I've been on there a few times, and he covers a lot of great environmental topics. So his question is, he has a friend who's been on a parasite cleanse. What product might benefit her health? Actually, I would recommend, if somebody has been on a parasite cleanse, that is somewhat like an antibiotic. So even if those are herbals, somebody might want to follow that up with a month of the antibiotic antidote, just to kind of reset the landscape, which is interesting because I'm actually doing a parasite thing myself right now. So at the end of the month, I'll cycle into the antibiotic antidote. And Leslie, you have your hand up.
Yeah, it just prompted a question for me. And as far as the antibiotic antidote, you said maybe take 1 to 2 months after you've ended it, right?
Yeah.
Then you said there was someone who felt that they needed to take it. So they took it in place of the sugar shift, or would you do it together?
Yeah. So this was this is actually a woman in her 80s who was, pretty healthy. And then she had, her appendix rupture and she got septic. And so she was on IV antibiotics for about, I don't know, it was probably close to 2 months, 6 weeks at least. And her gut was, she just wasn't able to go to the bath. It just really messed her up. And she had gone to her doctor and they're like, oh, well, as they do, it's not that big of a deal. It'll come back to normal eventually. And, or it won't, but, they didn't seem too concerned about it. And she took the antibiotic antidote and within a few days was actually feeling better. And so she never went on sugar shift, or so she always was like, this formula has made me feel better. It addressed my antibiotic problem and I'm staying on this.
Because I have a UTI and then I'm going to be having some major dental work because it turns out I have an infection in my molars and went into my sinus. So I'm looking towards having extractions and rebuilding of that and that kind of thing. And I know they'll put me on antibiotics. So trying to plan ahead and add in my little antibiotic antidote because I still have a little at home, but I will probably need more. And I wanted to see what do you think the protocol should be in terms of taking that? Should I take?
Yeah, I would imagine you're going to have to take an antibiotic with that dental work and the infection. Yeah. So yeah, I would, you could probably take that prophylactically also through the process of that dental work.
Okay. And then continue the sugar shift too. I mean, it wouldn't hurt, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, and I wanted to just mention to you real quick because it came up a long time ago and this is off topic, but I mentioned to you when I last saw it, when we last spoke, that my blood sugar had gone up like from a 6.6 to 6.9. My doctor had thought that it was probably because I'd had some prior surgeries and then I had radiation treatment. And it'd been more than 3 months since the surgeries, but it had only been 3 weeks since the radiation therapy. So I just wanted to report back to you and let you know that my blood sugar had gone up to 6.9, but it's down to 6.2 now. So
okay, good. That's your A1C. Is that your
the A1C, and I think that was tied into the stress of the body and the other stuff too.
Well, I'm going to talk a little bit about stress tonight, but not as much. I actually want to do a separate night of talking about stress and what stress actually is, because I think oftentimes like people think of stress as like the mental stress of my boss is putting a lot of pressure on me, or, my husband irritates me, or, something like that. And there's so much more to what stress is. And, metabolic stress is just one of those pieces of the puzzle, that swinging, but the body's always trying to kind of keep us in equilibrium, but there are so many kinds of stress, nutritional stress, radiation exposure, electromagnetic field, like all these different things. So I'm going to set that up for a future night just to talk about stress. But if anybody is interested in the science of stress, there's a gentleman by the name of Hans Selye, Selye, who did the early work on stress. And I'm trying to think, I might have a blog post on my Martha's Quest site. I'll see if I have that, because I posted there's a really good I can't remember whether it's a TED Talk or just a YouTube video of somebody talking about stress and how that impacts us. And accelerates all kinds of problems. So did we answer all your questions, Maha, or your hand's still up? I think we answered it. Okay, I'm going to share my screen here and talk to you about the glycocalyx. But let me see if I gotta move this. My little screen, I think. Nope. Sorry, did I just screw that up? Sorry. Okay, here we go. Okay, well, this was one of Pam's slides, which I really liked, which is just a framework for discernment about whether things are helping you or hurting you. And it goes back to that stress comment as well, because our system is trying to maintain stability. And that stability, fits within the framework of how our body was designed to work. But, as we learn through looking at all these processes, the body's pretty complicated. So usually what happens is we have greater harm when we sort of step out of what's natural to our body. And that, that can include supplements. There's lots of supplements that are unnatural, but we often have to do something like an antibiotic. If you've got, I'm definitely not somebody who says don't take an antibiotic, because antibiotics have saved thousands of lives from septic infection. But it's something that, we need to think about with discernment, again, sort of kind of testing. We're an ecological system. Are we pushing the system too far in one direction or another? So enough of that. This is a very busy slide. So this term endothelial glycocalyx is what's more well known today, but it took about 30 years of research and development by Dr. Hans Vink, who was the pioneer in this area, to even get people to admit that this glycocalyx that lines our blood vessels even existed. So this endothelial glycocalyx is the largest surface organ in the body at 10,000 square feet, and the longest organ in the body at over 60,000 miles if you stretched it out end to end. And so all this tiny little microvasculature. So what we see typically in the images of our circulatory system are these large vessels. But the body consists of these tiny, tiny capillary vessels that are in every part of the body. And that's how oxygen is delivered to our tissues. So, when we think about blood vessels and these big blood vessels, really these capillaries are the workhorses of the body that are, and they are lined by this structure. So this glycocalyx endothelial surface layer, you have a squishy layer that's not, this isn't the best image of it, but is what's size-wise, it's, and I don't know if a nanometer will make any sense to anybody, but it's 50 nanometers thick. And this hairy looking, the blue threads that you can see there, those can be anywhere from 100 to 1,000 nanometers. So it stretches out, and what that area is doing is sorting things. So it's letting oxygen in and carbon dioxide waste out. It is sorting, it's keeping blood cells from leaking out of our vessels. It has a lot of jobs. It's sensing and sorting all the different things that we are coming in contact with. So this is a little bit more of a close-up from Dr. Vink's work. If you see up here in the video, I'll just play that again. The dark spots are blood cells running through a blood vessel. But you can see here, they never touch the side. So they never touch the side because the whole vessel is lined with this hairy looking structure, which is the endothelial surface layer of the glycocalyx. And this glycocalyx is made of hyaluronic acid, which doesn't sound like a fiber, but it actually is a fiber that comes from animal tissue. So you're not going to get a lot of hyaluronic acid if you're on a vegan or vegetarian diet. Hyaluronic acid does come from animal protein. It is also made of heparin sulfate, chondroitin sulfate, and keratin sulfate. So, you know, sulfate, sulfur molecules, and let's see. So this is some of what it does. So it's oops, sorry. Let me go back. So back here where we're looking at this and we're seeing that the blood vessels are not touching the wall. So that is this glycocalyx keeping those, because these little hairs are negatively charged, and so they repel the blood cells. So, and then, as I said, the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide, your nutrients are coming through there, hormones, and then waste is coming out. And that's where a lot of your enzymes are produced. And this also controls the hormones that cause vasodilation. So the increasing of the size of the blood vessel or the decreasing of the size of the blood vessel that affects our blood pressure. And again, that also is the seal that, you know, protects blood from leaking out into the tissues. And when it gets compromised, you can have like this little fuzzy layer can go away, and then you lose that protection. That's when red blood cells start to attach to the wall, and that can lead to the buildup of plaque. You start to lose the function, the quantity and the quality of those little capillaries that are all over the body. You start to lose that oxygenation. You'll see, like, if you have any of those tiny little like burst capillaries in your legs or anything like that, that's an indication of some, oops, I keep touching the wrong button. The reduction in the microcirculation and the damage to those vessels. So this is my one slide that I added. So like, what can damage the glycocalyx? Well, pretty much everything. So endotoxin, which we talk a lot about on here, which is the cell walls of gram-negative bacteria. They can lodge into the glycocalyx and damage the ability of the structure to shape shift the way it needs to. And that's one of the things we've talked about a lot with sugar shift, because it does help lower the load of the endotoxin producing bacteria. There are other cell wall debris from other types of bacteria in the gut that are PPG is short for peptidoglycan. LTA is short for lipoteichoic acid. I think these are like details that we probably don't need to go into. But here, Norma Jean, to your point, antibiotic exposure can damage the glycocalyx. Loss of keystone microbes in the guild structures, especially those that produce butyrate, which supports the gut lining. So if you start losing that butyrate, you're going to have, the gut lining is actually a glycocalyx. So SIBO can do that, especially H. pylori. And if we go back on H. pylori, the original research that identified that it was the bacteria that caused ulcers. Well, ulcers are open sores in the GI tract, which is essentially a weak spot in that glycocalyx. It's a wound inside the body. Viral infections and viral remnants can lodge or wedge into, incorporate into the cellular membrane and the glycocalyx. So chronic low-grade inflammation, which mast cell activation and histamine release kind of goes hand in hand with that. Same thing with the cytokines. Shear stress, so that's the speed of the blood moving through the body. One of the things that I have begun to talk more about is this ischemia reperfusion injury in endurance overtraining. You know, just going back to John, you know, John was a marathon runner, and I've also been working with another, she's actually a health coach who's in great shape, runs, swims, does all this, but she's got signs of metabolic problems and issues with her gut that go back to being an endurance athlete, and how so what happens when you are doing these long training events or long training runs, you're putting a lot of physical stress with the pounding of running, but also you're pulling all the blood away from your stomach and your digestive system. It's going out into your muscles because your muscles need that oxygen. But then after you finish the run, what happens is that blood comes rapidly back into the gut, and that's what causes injury and leaky gut after a long training run. So also hyperglycemia, the blood spikes that Dr. Davis talks about this a lot. You want to try to keep your blood sugar on a more even keel and not have so many ups and downs. Chronic insulin resistance, the HbA1c, which is the indicator in the blood that the red blood cells are getting these advanced glycation end products on the blood. It's glycated blood. Excess free fatty acids, metabolic syndrome. Oop, I'm really not doing good with this. Chronic overfeeding. So if we're constantly eating, that can also damage the system. Oxidative and nitrosative stress. I've talked about that some before. I mean, most people know what oxidative stress is. Nitrosative stress is basically the nitrogen is producing reactive nitrogen species, which are also quite damaging. Glyphosate and herbicide residues, just any herbicides and pesticides are going to have some damaging effects. Air pollution, industrial solvents, and the last one here that I don't think any of us would have thought about, but detergents and surfactants, because hey, isn't cleaning good for us? Isn't cleaning making us healthier? Well, perhaps not, or not so much. So what I have learned over the last year in working on this Parkinson's paper with Dr. Ninham, he did some early work in the 1980s. Somebody's got feedback on their thing. I don't know if Kevin, if you can figure out who that is, maybe you can mute it. But Dr. Ninham did some early work on what are called surfactants, which is a surface active compound. And that's basically when you see the bubbles in soap, those are surfactants. But what his work in the 1980s showed that these synthetic cationic surfactants that were in the soaps, the cleaning products, could actually incorporate into the cellular membranes because they have a similar structure. And by doing that, they get stuck there, and they actually Well, they have a little head and they have a tail, and the tail flips inside the cell and will make the cell unable to basically have an immune reaction. So they can be immunosuppressant. And so, like most of us have been using all these cleaning products like crazy since the 1980s. Well, I also met somebody in December who told me to pick up this book by a Dr. Hans Nieper, who had all this great success. He's a German doctor, treating people for all kinds of things, cancer, neurological diseases, all this. And I was reading his book, and it was from the 1980s also. And he was talking about cleaning and the connection around the world when they started looking at first world countries that got dishwashers and dish soap and all of these cleansers, the rise in, I think he was looking at cancer. And they looked in particular at one of the Arab countries where the diet of the population in general, regardless of economic status, the diet was all the same. But the higher income people had brought in washing machines and dishwashers and all these cleaning products. And then the more peasant people out in the desert washed their dishes with sand, and they had something like an 8-fold increase in cancer and over the course of, picking up all this new cleaning stuff. So I thought that was interesting that was out there, and I just got that book a couple of weeks ago and started reading it. But Dr. Ninham's work, he actually showed this back in the 1980s and tried to talk to some of the major manufacturers of these cleaning products, and they took out a full-page ad in the New York Times about how safe everything was, and did sort of the standard thing we see with these big corporations who don't want to lose a lot of sales, or don't want something negative said about their products. But the name for the, in terms of chemistry, is they are quaternary ammonium compounds, or they're known as quats. And they sanitize by stripping surfaces. So if you think about your glycocalyx is a surface, it's going to damage and strip your glycocalyx. Most of these products you'll see, like if you go to the store and it says kills 99.9% of bacteria, it's probably has a quaternary compound in it, because it's killing by the microbes by stripping their membranes. But our membranes and the microbial membranes are made of the same components. So, and that's actually something, Norma Jean, back to the question about antibiotics, depending on what kind of antibiotic you take, there are a number of antibiotics that target the bacterial membrane. And of course, we have those same membranes, or there are certain antibiotics that target the mitochondria, or I shouldn't say the mitochondria, that target DNA, and that will affect the mitochondria. Sorry, I misspoke on that, but they'll bind to your surface. So if you say wipe a counter with a wipe that has these quaternary compounds on them, they will stick to the surface. So the residue is there, and you can pick it up later, say if you were preparing food on the counter. It also damages your skin barrier. So sometimes people who are particularly sensitive to them will notice. So a lot of cosmetics or lotions and things will have some of these surfactant. They're also used to like blend oil and water, basically. But on the right-hand side, this is from Pam's ozonated glycerin presentation, and I'm going to have her do a separate presentation on that. So right now I'm just talking about the quaternary compounds, but it is sort of an analogy to a paint stripper. So this slide is about the immune shutdown, and this was another conversation I had in December. I attended the ACRES conference, which is a agriculture conference held annually for farmers who are looking to transition to organic or trying to be more sustainable and environmentally friendly. And we had a 2-day conference on glyphosate before the main ACRES conference started. And one of the veterinarians there that I know really well, I was talking to him about the quaternary compounds, because he's been doing a lot of work in the, he's in Iowa, and there's a lot of pork operations there. And he was talking about some of the challenges he was having. And I brought up the issue with the quats, and it was like this huge light bulb went off in his head. And he said, "Oh my gosh, I never thought about that. They're cleaning these, you know, the big pig operations, you know, multiple times a day with these surfactant compounds. And so, you know, it's also affecting the pig's immune systems as well. So, you know, the same thing they see in the animals, you know, we see over on our side, but physicians don't understand this connection to how it could, you know, potentially be affecting us. So here's a little bit better description of they're acting at the cell surface, disrupting the immune signaling. The immune cells survive, but their ability to sense and respond is very muted. So this was also interesting to me because John was always somebody who liked hand sanitizers, wipes, cleaners, had them everywhere, was always wiping down surfaces and cleaning stuff. And we've had many conversations with other people with Parkinson's who would say, well, I never get sick. I never get sick. I never get sick. Well, one of the reasons why you never get sick could be because your immune system is actually not recognizing the invaders, and they're being allowed to sort of set up a low-grade shop because your system isn't able to kick them out because it doesn't recognize them. So I like the analogy of cutting the wires to a smoke detector. The fire starts, the alarm is muted, so the damage is pretty extensive before it gets detected. You get less resilient. You eventually get immune exhaustion, which I've done a number of presentations about Parkinson's where that is one of the underlying factors in Parkinson's is immune exhaustion. And so what are some of these quats? These are the most widely used ones in household products. So I don't know if you want to take a screenshot. If you're on the, if you know how to do that, you can take a screenshot of this. We are actually going to do a downloadable PDF for people that we'll be coming out with in the next month that will provide information on this. And, you know, these are some of the red flags on the label. I mean, it's been interesting for me because I've had to throw out some cleaning products here I had at the house. And I even had one, I'm somewhat ashamed to say, from when we had the lab. So when I had the lab and we were cleaning up lab stuff all the time, and of course we're collecting stool samples, you want it to be clean, but we actually had a product that's called Quat. So that was kind of shocking to me. So I tossed all of that out, and I've been sort of working through, what can I use? What can I do? And so in that handout, we're going to provide more information about, like what products you can use. But so where are they commonly found? So this is another thing, like healthcare workers are exposed much more to these than, those of us who aren't in a healthcare or a senior living facility operation, or, dental offices, that sort of thing, where they're constantly in need of, cleaning and sanitizing areas. They're going to be exposed much, much more. And I actually talked to a young gentleman when we've been working on a Voices of Parkinson's docuseries. And I spoke to a young man in his 40s, orthopedic surgeon who had to retire from surgery. And during COVID, they had changed what they were cleaning his operating theater with. And they were cleaning it with a product called Quat. And the people would come in the room with kind of a hazmat suit and, one of those backpacks with the stuff on their back and a sprayer in their hand, and spray all the surfaces in the room. And they were doing that multiple times a day. And, I can't say that caused his Parkinson's, but I can say it probably didn't help the situation. So then your disinfectant wipes. So even baby wipes can have these on them. Babies, even though baby shampoo is kind of said to be safer, most baby shampoos are not safer. Any of your multi-surface cleaners, your bathroom and toilet cleaners, your floor cleaners, anything that's a no-risk rinse sanitizing spray, mold and mildew sprays. If your hand sanitizer is non-alcohol, alcohol is not a quaternary compound, so you can use alcohol to clean with. And we did use that a lot in the lab, where we would mix up alcohol and spray it on the countertops. Fabric softeners and dryer sheets are a big do not use. Also, hair conditioners. Do you think, they make it smooth and make it so your hair doesn't have static? That those are a problem. I said the wet wipes, those were John's favorite. Farm and dairy products. So this is also something. So dairy operations often clean with these quaternary compounds. Some of them use chlorine dioxide, and chlorine dioxide is not a quaternary compound. But this is actually something that has concerned me a bit about dairy, and I'm doing some more investigation on this. Because these compounds can stick to, so that if they use them, say, to clean the vats that are collecting the milk, they will stick to the surface, and then when the milk goes in, they can be picked up in the lipids in the milk and carried in the milk. And so I don't think today there is any framework for looking for those residues in milk, but I'm looking to see if there's a place that could be tested, so we could start to understand a bit more about whether or not we have residues in our milk supply. But these compounds are used a lot in cleaning livestock, poultry, just food restaurants, food storage, food preparation, all this stuff where, we've got this kind of clean sanitation mindset. And there's now several publications in the last 2 or 3 years raising the alarm, because the level of these compounds that are found in the blood is about 6 times higher post-COVID, because, we got so indoctrinated with the need to be clean, to wash our hands, to wipe surfaces, to, you get on an airplane and everybody's handing you something to wipe everything down. And So I think this is something that we're going to have to rethink how we go about it. Here's some safer options. Castle soap, Dr. Bronner's, plant-derived surfactants. Those lift dirt without the quats. Natural and bio-based cleaners, that's going to be vinegar and baking soda. Citrus-derived cleaners and plant enzyme formulas. Biodegradable essential oil cleaners. Alcohol, as I said before, alcohol is not going to do this, or not going to have these effects. Hydrogen peroxide, acid-based sanitizers. This is from Pam's presentation, and I don't know specifically what those would be. Thymol comes from thyme. I know there's a number of essential oil products that have thymol in them, and chlorine dioxide, which is used in some of the dairy operations. Okay. I'm going to hop out of here. And now I'm going to go to the list and see who's got questions. Let's see. Leslie, your hand is raised, and I have C. Cruse. You're looking for your mute button. Okay, well, when you figure it out, we'll come back to you. But now the other hand that was up has disappeared. I have Debi Bernish. You've got your hand up. Hopefully the other one comes back. C. Cruse. Oh, she took her hand down. Okay.
Okay, so the alcohol sanitizer spray that's alcohol based, those are okay to use.
Those are okay to use, but I would look at the ingredient list and make sure it doesn't have a quaternary compound in it. But most of the time, if it's going to be an alcohol-based cleaner, it's not going to have one of those in there. But so we're working on the PDF download. It's pretty complicated because the other thing is these companies have done a fantastic job of trying to hide the names and rename things so that people don't know.
Okay. And I have another question later, all the way at the end. So.
Okay, Chris?
Yeah. Can you go back to your intro on the glycocalyx and just restate what is actually happening that that blood pressure is affected? I didn't get the whole thing. So the surfactants or any other number of intrusive substances affect the glycocalyx, and where is the connection between? Of course, it's obvious. I mean, that's the blood flow and everything, but I don't really quite understand what happens so that blood pressure is affected. Is it simply because the microcapillaries are not functioning and the overall system, vascular system, is compromised?
Well, that's going to be part of it, but also your vasodilating hormones are going to be moving through that glycocalyx. So if it's damaged, those vasodilating and nitric oxide, which is your vasodilator,
Right,
is made in the glycocalyx, in part in the glycocalyx.
I see. Okay, that makes sense. Very good. Thank you.
Sharon?
Yes, hi. I just have a quick question. Regular soap, like Dials, like a bar of Dial soap or Safeguard soap, are those NH4 quaternary compounds or dangerous compounds that one would be wise to substitute with, like Dr. Bronner's cleanser for bodily cleansing?
I don't think that bar soap is a problem, but
Okay.
I can't tell you that 100%, but that was one of the recommendations when I was talking to Dr. Nenham. And I went, when I was out in Colorado for Christmas, I went to natural grocers, and they actually have bar soap for your hair.
Yeah.
And so I'm now using bar soap on my hair. And so if you think about like you're trying to emulsify a liquid, and a bar soap is solid.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. And, I'm just looking at everyday baby wipes and things, and just it says fragrance-free aloe vera, but I have to look and see if they give the ingredients and look for quaternary ammonium compounds.
And
Right.
sometimes there's this other tricky name. So I am working on that PDF, because it like you just kind of start going cross-eyed when you try to figure that out.
Yes. Okay, great. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Hi, Gayle. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's great to see everybody. I've got about 3 different comments to different people who've, had particular questions, if that's okay.
Yep.
To Chris, there's a talk that Dr. Ben Edwards, I don't know if you're familiar with him or not. I follow him, and he's had Dr. Hans Vink and Robert Long on his podcast. Hadn't been too long ago. Well, it might have been as much as 6 months.
I think it's about 3 months ago, maybe 4 at the longest.
And that goes into a lot of detail. I think Robert Long is the guy that put the Revasca product together with Hans Vink's research and everything, if I have that right. So I found that really interesting. Dr. Edwards is not a supplement guy at all, and he highly recommends that product Revasca to help with the glycocalyx. I also heard him in person last April, and he did a cardiovascular talk, and that was one of the things that he talked about in depth. So that's kind of some good references for that. And then also when you're looking for products, I use, some of you all probably know about this already, but there's a Facebook page and website called Mamavation, and she does independent testing on everything you can imagine. She's got some kind of biochemical degree or something. She's a real smart lady, but and then she posts that on her website, so you can go and look what the safest products are. She does have some affiliate links with some of those where she just raises money to fund the testing, the actual independent testing that she does. I mean, she does all kinds of, she'll test, carpets and all kinds of things for chemicals, and it is a little overwhelming, some of the stuff that comes across the Facebook page. Like ladies will come in and say, I've got to buy a new bath rug. What's the best option? People get like, it's hard to have everything perfect, but I do find that many times when I'm looking for particular answers on whether something is safe or not, I will go to Mamavation. And then interestingly enough, something that happened to me yesterday, I was at a friend's house. I just ran by to take something by, and she had made some brownies that she's trying to eat cleaner, and she wanted me to take a couple of her brownies, and I've known her. She was actually on my running team, so I've known her like for 20 years, and I've always noticed that anything that I've tasted at her house, and she cooks a lot, has this kind of funny aftertaste. And I've always thought, well, I think she does a lot of freezing of different foods, and maybe she's just not always using really fresh ingredients. Maybe it's just like a freezer burn taste or something. Well, interestingly enough, when I went into her house yesterday, I went through her laundry room. That's the way she brought me in. And it reeked of the dryer sheets, of which I'm sure most of you all, like me, I can't even stand that smell
Yeah.
anymore. And yes, I used to use them
Yeah.
many years ago, but I mean, I'm just like almost gag immediately. And of course, I got through there and went in her house and did the thing. And when I went home, I thought, okay, I'll try a little bite of this brownie. And it
Tastes
tasted
like
really
gross.
good until well, and it wouldn't surprise me there'd be a different kind of brownie anyways, but that's a whole nother subject. But this strong aftertaste, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a taste I've been tasting all these years, and that's dryer sheets. And I think that I know, I'm like, this is going into all of their food. Her husband has had a stroke and he can't even work anymore. I'm sure things like these aren't helping. She's trying to be more healthy, but she just doesn't have the knowledge of things like dryer sheets, I guess, yet. But I believe that one of her freezers is right next to her dryer. So I don't know if that's part of it or what, and I thought, well, I'm just really sensitive. So I had my husband try the brownie because he doesn't notice anything. And he said, oh my gosh, this is terrible. It tastes just like a dryer sheet. So it just goes to show you all these crazy things are going into our foods even that we're not even thinking about. Like, because my housekeeper's coming tomorrow and I think she brings some of her own stuff. I usually leave the house because I just don't even want to be here just because I don't want to hear her on the telephone. She's always on her telephone the whole time. But, and I'm thinking, oh my Lord. And I've told her what I want used, but I don't think she always does what I want her to do.
I've talked to mine about the dangers of the cleaning products and stuff, but I hadn't really paid attention because usually I'm like, I go next door because I'm doing a podcast or something while she cleans. But when she was here the last time, I was looking and she was using like some kind of Lysol multi-purpose thing. I was like, oh my God. And I'm not going to give her this big lecture in the middle. She had her other person with her, but I'm like, okay, next time she comes in, I'm going to have my other cleaning products ready for her to use. And so then when she left, I took alcohol and wiped down all the counters to get all this stuff off of it. Cause I was like, okay, I can't, like, this is because the other thing I didn't talk about is when these incorporate into your cellular membrane, Dr. Ninham's work showed that it had about a 9-month half-life. Wow. So if you think you're getting exposed to it every day, then it's accumulating because you're never having enough time to completely get rid of it.
Yeah.
So anyway, that is troubling. Okay, I'm going to go back over here. So I have Debbie and Mary Ramos. So Debbie, are you ready for your next question?
Yeah. And so that would be not just skin contact, but if you breathe it in. So it's not enough to wear gloves when you're cleaning. You would inhale it and it's the same damage, correct?
Yes.
Okay. That's what I thought. All right. I got a lot of different ones.
And the lungs are particularly sensitive because your lungs are lined with a glycocalyx as well. And that is where the pulmonary surfactant is made. And the pulmonary surfactant is what encapsulates the oxygen and nitrogen that then goes into your blood.
Okay. Yeah. I have a lot of stuff to throw away.
Yeah. I mean, it's when you start looking at it and you're like, oh my, like, how long have I been doing this?
Yeah.
I have my work cut out for me. And I thought back to just how much, so one of the other early kind of findings in kind of looking at population level stuff is that women were having a lot of more post-op surgical problems because their immune systems were not working as well because they do more of the cleaning. And then the other thing, there was a huge spike in cervical cancer because the spermicides had surfactant in them. And when they stopped that, the rate of cervical cancer went down. So it's, and of course, these things, nobody's coming out on the evening news and telling you.
No.
And then our essential oils, then they're fine to use, and you can make different combinations of things. I'm just saying,
And I think somebody in the list gave us some ideas. I thought dilute rubbing alcohol and put it in a spray bottle with water. And that's what we basically did in the lab, just for day-to-day cleaning. But, another thing though, you have to be careful. These companies that say they're clean products. I was talking to somebody else about this, and they said, "Oh, I'm working with this multi-level marketing company that has all clean products." And they said, "Let me send it to you." And they sent it to me, and I looked at it and I sent it to Barry, and he was like, "Nope, that's Quat." I was like, okay. So, buyer beware, I guess. And it was crazy to me too. After I figured this out, I was in the airport, and in the bathroom in the Denver airport, they have the soap container by the sink, and the label on it says safe soap. And I wanted to put a sticker on there that says, "This soap is not safe." Like, that's false advertising. Anyway, Mary.
There it is. Hi, Martha.
How are you?
Oh, that was better till you started talking and telling us all these things. I've been trying to get rid of a lot of the products that you talked about, but it's so hard to find substitutes. Like, you're just saying that you buy it and then you find out it's not what they said it was.
Well,
So, yeah.
I think this one is okay. This is actually citric acid, I think.
So I'm using vinegar in my bathroom, vinegar water, and
Yeah, I use vinegar a lot, but I use this clean green.
clean green.
So that's, like, I think on Pam's list, it would be one of the acid-based cleaners. It's a citric acid, basically.
Okay. And have you discovered any dishwashing products? I bought a product that I was using in my dishwasher, and it made everything, it just gummed up the whole thing. It was horrible.
Well, that's interesting. Well, what I will say, any of the dishwasher, like, the things that say, like, your glasses won't get
rinse
film
agent.
the rinse agents.
Yeah, the rinse agents. I stopped using that.
Because the rinse agents stick to the glass. And that was an interesting thing I learned from Barry, is that, like, it was actually affecting scientific experiments, because they were cleaning the glass in the lab with this stuff, and then the surfactants are sticking to the surface, and then they're making these assumptions about how things work, and it was affected by the surfactant on the wall of the glass tube, or the flask, or whatever.
So the product I bought from my dishwasher is a powder, and it doesn't have any of those things. It's got like sodium citrate, sodium carbonate, and some enzymes, some silicate. But this is the one that when I opened up my dishwasher, it had a gummy film all on the bottom of it. Now, I don't know how the dishes look clean, but
I wonder if
total
the
mess.
gummy film might have been left over from other stuff you had used previously. I don't know.
No, I hadn't used anything previous. I got rid of I don't remember. I think it was somebody here who was talking about not using the rinse aids because of it leaves a film, and then you're eating that film.
Yeah.
So it's been more than a year that I've had that in my dishwasher, and I was putting vinegar in there instead. I don't know if that worked or not, but I put vinegar in it before. But this product is, I would never buy it again. I would never buy it again. It's horrible. And the dishwashing liquid from the same company makes the dishwater gray and with a film on the top, and it's horrible too. So
You know, it's interesting to me, like thinking about how did people wash dishes 100 years ago? Just with hot water. You know, water is the universal solvent.
yeah.
So
But it doesn't get rid of
I
grease.
started to do like with with grease. So like if I have a greasy skillet, I
Salt it.
wipe it out with a paper towel. I wipe out as much as I can, and I just soak it in hot water.
Oh,
And
okay.
you know, I have, I might have to use a little more elbow grease sometimes, but
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
found over the last 3 months that I have been focused on this, that like I don't really have trouble getting my dishes clean with hot water, with just plain old hot water. And if I need a little extra something, I'll put some of this clean green on it. But Leslie says vinegar cuts grease.
Yeah. It's hard on the hands though. I gotta put gloves on, that's for sure.
Okay, so Chris had another question. You're on mute, Chris.
Okay. All right. Gayle, just a quick comment to you. What really great associative thinking you did over time to put that all together. What a sleuth. That is, and it really, rang true with me because I'm very sensitive, chemically sensitive to a lot of things. The dryer sheets are the worst of everything for me. And I mean, they're in another class of their own, I think, So that's such a cool story, Gayle. Go ahead. Mark. Yeah.
When you're walking down the street,
oh yeah,
you can smell it coming out of people's houses.
Yes.
You can in the
And
early
I'm like, oh
morning.
my God, it's poisoned.
I know. And then a quick question. So you're saying two different words. I might just not be hearing them. Surfactant is what we need. Surfactants work against the
okay. So surfactant just is a term for surface active. Let me see. It's surface active agent.
Okay.
And that just means it lowers the surface tension of a liquid. But if you think about, okay, so in our lungs, we have pulmonary surfactant, pulmonary surfactant. That is lowering the surface tension, but that's what enables the lungs to expand and contract.
Oh, okay.
So you need that. So you do need these things, but you need them in ways like where they're not sticking in a membrane and hanging around for 9 months and changing the structure of the membrane. You need sort of back to that beginning slide I had about natural, what happens is these synthetic compounds are able to incorporate into the membrane, but they're unnatural and their behavior is natural. And so that's where you get the issue.
I see. Thank you. Yep.
Okay. See, Cruse, you've got your hand up this time. No. You have to unmute yourself. Should be on the bottom left of all the buttons across the bottom.
Okay. I've been pushing it, but it wasn't responding. Okay, I just wanted to share this. I look forward to researching these ingredients a little bit more, but this is called Branch Basics. Well, there it is. Okay. It's a lady from Texas formulated this due to some health problems that she or someone in her family had. But what's pretty neat about it is that this is a concentrate, and you can make up bathroom cleaner, glass cleaner, laundry soap, hand cleaner, like hand soap. And she sells these bottles that are empty that are labeled, say bathroom. This one's streak-free glass. It only takes, I fill it up with my reverse osmosis water, and it takes 1 drop of this concentrated cleaner. And it's like she says, plant and mineral based. It's like Castile soap.
Yeah.
I believe, like I say, when I'm going to research the ingredients, but what I have done, I found like other Castile soaps and Dr. Bronner's, because she has the measurements on each bottle, she tells you to fill it up to this point with water and then add this much soap. And so I'm trying other brands as well, because this one is $50 for 32 ounces. But I found this, gosh, my screen. I have that backdrop on. I didn't realize it was going to cause these problems. But anyway, I found this at Marshall's, and it's a beekeeper made concentrated Castile soap, $8 versus 50. And Dr. Bronner's is about $14 for 32 ounces. But I'm using the empty bottles that I buy from her that are labeled, like I say, bathroom counter, windows. And she shows you how much water and how much product. And even like the hand soap that I keep in the kitchen that I use all day long, every day, 50 times a day. Same thing. It's a foaming, any foaming dispenser will work, and you can just play around with the ratios, but you don't have to use 100%, or you don't even have to use 50%, because on this one, it's only about maybe 3/4 of an inch of the concentrate, and the rest is water. So anyway, I thought that might help someone.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't have any affiliation with this company either.
I think somebody else mentioned that, and I was looking at it a couple of weeks ago, and I was having trouble finding all the ingredients, but I think I just did find a list of all the ingredients, and it looks like there are not any quats in there. So
she does have dishwasher tablets, and I've been using those too. And I think they're working great. They're not supposed to have the, ethoxylated?
Yeah.
There was someone else online talking about that, and it doesn't have that in there. So I'd be curious to know what you think.
Well, I might try that. This one gives you different mixes, but it doesn't tell you like what you would use. Like, for example, it says to make a weak solution, a medium solution, or an extra strength solution, but it doesn't tell you, okay, weak solution is for your windows and extra strength is for whatever. So I think it would be nice to have something. And I think somebody else was recommending that because of also getting the bottles that tell you, where to use it, how to use it. And
the ratios. Well, the streak-free glass cleaner, it works so well. I love it. And the bath.
I'm trying to find something that I can recommend to my young woman who cleans for me, because she's 28 years old and she's got 2 little kids. Like I want her to be healthy.
Exactly.
So what was the name of that product that you're talking about?
This one that I am trying to branch basics. And then the other one that is like the branch basics for that concentrate, she sells that for 50, but you can use it for so many things. You can even use it for laundry soap, but I felt like it was for laundry. It was a bit expensive. So I just happened to find this at Marshall.
Can't read it.
Yeah, cast soap.
It's pure Castile, and the name of it is Beekeeper Made. It had lavender and olive oil, coconut, sunflower oil, and jojoba oil in it. I'm sure there's others out there, and I'm just using this in some of her empty, the bottles and you buy the bottles empty. You don't.
Yeah.
If you want to buy the concentrate and try it, you can.
No.
And then the dishwasher tablets, and then a brightener too that she has. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you. That's great. Thanks for sharing.
Thanks. You're welcome.
Sharon,
Yes.
your hand's up again, and I think then Mary's is up again.
Okay. Thank you. I just have a very quick question. I was looking at these wipes that we've been using to clean the dog's paws, and it says the 4th ingredient, it says water, glycerin, cocoa, mido, propyl, PG-dimonium chloride phosphate. So does that sound like an ammonium quaternary compound?
It does. Ammonium chloride.
Yes. Okay. Okay. So good to know. And any thoughts about what to wipe the dog's paws with instead of this?
How about a washcloth with water?
Okay. Okay. That sounds good.
Or, I think alcohol would probably be too drying out for the paws, but I think just warm water and a washcloth. I mean, you'll have to do a little more laundry, but.
Sure. I do have very soft washable bamboo washcloths that I can just put in the washing machine after we use it. Recycle.
And it'll be better for the environment.
Right, right. And, the dog's a senior dog with a heart condition. So, I think it may help the dog live longer too.
No, Penny. Penny.
There's another puppy there.
Yeah, it's Penny. So I put my hand up because of the question about the paws. So what do you think about this one? I think Dr. Becker is her name. She's a veterinarian. She recommends using betadine solution to just put your dog's paws in it when you're coming in from outside to get rid of all the
the iodine to get rid of like pathogenic bugs.
Yeah, because the dog's running around outside on the streets and when you've been out walking with them. And then if they're licking their paws, they're eating that stuff. I couldn't get my dog to cooperate very much, but I mean,
I
wiping
would also say dogs have been living for hundreds of years without us wiping their paws.
Right. That's what I think. I don't clean my dog's feet.
No, and I actually did. So I did put in the chat, I put the link to Dr. Ben's article, and I put one of the other links in there, but I'm also going to put a link in there. I write a Substack, and my Substack last week was Are we too clean? So I'm going to put a link to that in there. And if you want to read more about, I write more about the environmental stuff and not necessarily microbiome, other hypothesis or just issues that I think aren't being addressed. I did an article on who can, what was it called? Who writes the science script? Because most people don't realize how much of what gets published in science is controlled by either big corporations or nonprofits. And, I had gone back actually 10 years ago and read a book called Foundations, Their Power and Influence. It was written in the 1950s, and it was talking about these strategies that the foundations had to basically take their money to change society through education, funding education, funding science, funding medicine, what have you. And we often don't realize these hidden, deeper agendas behind what's controlling what gets published or doesn't get published. And, that was really interesting in this. Let me see if I can find this book. I always have a book bomb going off in my house. And I'm not putting this on the book club right now, but it's a book called The Curious Man, Hans Nieper, MD, and he died fairly young. It's he had a background in physics, and he did work on like free energy and all kinds of stuff, but he was a pioneer in nutritional therapies for cancer and multiple sclerosis. And it's a really interesting book if you're dealing with cancer or have dealt with cancer, or if you're interested in how nutrition might impact that. He also worked with a biochemist and came up with a number of mineral salts in particular that were very effective in MS and cancer. Actually, I have a good friend who is 80 years old. She's a clinical nutritionist, and she was trained by him. And she knew Linus Pauling,
Wow.
people who are doing this groundbreaking nutritional research. And she was treating her patients with nutritional therapies, some of them IV, but over the course of about a decade, the FDA started locking down access to all of these nutritional therapies, and then eventually made it where a clinical nutritionist could no longer write the prescription for a compounding pharmacy to actually make the nutritional stuff. They had to have a doctor, and then they made it impossible to get the compounds. And he doesn't really go into a lot of, but he does go into some of, he talks about Laetrile. So anybody who's dealt with cancer who may have looked at B17 and Laetrile, he was involved in some of that Laetrile research, and the doctor who did that research, and the pushback from big pharma here in the US to stop the use of Laetrile. So there are a lot of things you can get outside of the United States that you can't get here. And that's one of the other things in talking to my friend, she said she was ordering some of her compounds from Germany, and then the FDA just started confiscating them, not saying, basically just emptying out all the vials, and an empty box would show up with an FDA tape over it. And so, we were talking about it earlier this week, and she was saying, maybe I didn't do enough to fight back. I just tried to think of other ways that I could work around the system until, it's like, hey kids, you're in the pen and they're bringing in there's pulling the pin in tighter and tighter, and you just don't even realize it. So that was really interesting to hear some of that history from her, because she was saying, I was talking to her about, like, there's so many health gurus today and people recommending this supplement or that supplement and take this mineral and take that mineral. And she said so much of the knowledge is being lost. I mean, she's 80 years old. Dr. Nieper's gone. People aren't being trained in, she said, people coming out of nutritional training now aren't trained in these mineral salts and what a difference they make in membrane integrity and the cells. And I don't know how I'm like, well, then we need to start recording everything that so we can let people know or something. I don't know, but I would recommend the book. I just got it on Amazon, I think. I don't know. I think I got it on Amazon, but I might have gotten it from some other random book place. Because sometimes the harder ones to get, I have to go somewhere else, but it's interesting. Or if you want to wait and borrow mine, and you let me know you want to borrow mine, I'm actually trying not to write all over this one. So,
what was the title?
The Curious Man, The Life and Works of Dr. Hans Nieper. It's also an interesting story because he was a child during World War II. And he talks about like the educational system and what happened to the educational system after the war. And it's just an interesting perspective from somebody who grew up in the war, living in Germany during the war.
Oh, Germany, yeah.
All right, let's see. I think that is it. Yep, I think that's it. Did I get your question, Mary?
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't put my hand down.
Nope, Debbie's got one more. You're on mute. Okay. There you go.
So this is kind of off topic. I'm just wondering how you handle it. So our really good friend, who's about 69, we just saw him out in Wyoming. He's a big skier. He's been skiing with my husband for 40 years. And so his job, he has his doctorate, and his job is to plant crops. And then, like Monsanto and other people would say, put this on this, and then on this melon, and send us samples of this melon at 2 weeks, 6 weeks, 12 weeks.
He's a test farmer. He does test farming. Yeah.
Yeah. So for the first time now, his hands are shaking. So because I'm sure you see people all the time. I'm seeing more and more people now that either their head has a tremor, or at churches, I see them all the time. And so for our friend, Mark, I think he would want to know about sugar shift, but how do you approach people without offending them? And are the people that have tremors, are they almost always Parkinson's? Or are there some cases that's non-Parkinson's tremors?
Well, if it's a hand tremor, sometimes it's essential tremor, I think. And I don't know, Gayle may know better, but I think a head tremor is probably less of an essential tremor, but it's interesting today because I did a pre-interview with a podcaster today to see if she wanted to have me on the podcast. And one of the questions she asked me is kind of a question of, like, I know someone who I think has Parkinson's, like, how do I tell them or whatever? And I said, obviously I have been looking at Parkinson's for almost 25 years now. And 24, I guess, 24 years. And I can spot it without a tremor. I can spot it watching somebody walk. I can walk.
Well, his walk has changed. His walk has changed too.
Yeah. Look at and John's neurologist in 2002 looked at me and he said, "You know what I'm going to tell you, don't you? You should be a neurologist." But because I did know, but what I told her was that I don't tell people.
Oh, you don't?
I don't tell people because I think that stress is such a huge, hang on, I'm going to mute that, is such a huge piece of the puzzle.
Oh,
And,
okay.
you know, for some random person, even if they're a friend of yours, to say, hey, you know, you got this trimmer, I think you might have Parkinson's, you might benefit from this probiotic. It's just,
It's too stressful. Okay.
it's too stressful. I mean, I
Okay.
think people have to come to terms themselves. What you can say is, you know, in a casual conversation is like, you can bring up gut health and see if they kind of bite the hook. And then you can talk to them about gut health and, you know, how this product has helped with gut health and helped you or helped other people or what have you. But I have never told someone that I felt
Okay.
and had Parkinson's, that I thought they had Parkinson's, because I mean, whoa, it's a heavy rock to drop on somebody.
Right. Right. But is it better for them to find out early and get treatment?
It is. I mean, well, I'm going to say it is and it isn't, because actually the medications are probably making things worse.
Right. No, but
And what will happen when you first go in is they'll, you know, you typically get told, well, you know, medications only have a certain window of time, a number of years where they work. So, you know, we'll keep you off of medications until, you know, we'll just kind of watch your symptoms, but they don't like give you any kind of things to do. They don't give you lifestyle changes. They don't talk to you about stress management. So like, that's one of the things that we're actually working on with the Resolve Parkinson's Foundation, and trying to see if we can't develop something similar to the model they have in Netherlands, where it's a whole person model, where they're, you know, they're supporting them with exercise, with mental health and stress management, and they have much better outcomes in all of their people. So yes, it's better if you know earlier and can make the lifestyle changes if you're willing to do so. But like, I don't know how I would weigh that with what happens when
they find out.
when you find out. And like, to me, I had that, like, I mean, this is going to sound like a religious conversation, but like, when the doctor tells you, it's almost like they speak a curse over you. And
Oh, okay. All right. No, I get it.
Get up and take it, like 80% of the people take it fully, and they sit down and they are on the path to dying.
And then, so one thing was, he said he lost 20 pounds, like just out of the blue, and he doesn't know why. And anyway. And then the other thing too, is that he is a fruit farmer. So he eats enormous amounts of fruit. He always has. And so isn't fructose worse for Parkinson's or not?
Well, okay. If he's a fruit farmer, he's exposed to a lot of pesticides.
Right. No, exactly. So that was part of his, like, he has the testing that he does for all those companies. He used to do that. And now he raises apples, and I know those, but I was thinking that, wasn't that book, Mother Nature Wants You to Get Fat, talks about the issues with fructose?
He does talk about issues with fructose, and fructose being more of a driver of fat. But what I would say, like, that weight loss,
yeah,
like, to me, that's more of like a tipping point where he's basically burned up all his glycogen stores.
Oh, okay.
And so, like, that is, like, I won't get into the complicated biochemical pathways, but the urea cycle is broken in Parkinson's, and the urea cycle is also where gluconeogenesis occurs, where you're converting fat into glucose to go into and those herbicides will also disrupt the ability for glucose to be delivered into the blood through that gluconeogenesis pathway, which, Gayle, that goes all the way back to, how much I dug into that stuff for Dr. Minkoff. And, what happens, and you see this in Parkinson's, they may have like steady weight, but over time they start to waste. And that's basically nitrogen wasting. Like the metabolism is very fat. They're burning up. So if they're a sugar burner, if he was eating fruit all the time, John was he was a carb burner. And they get this accelerated metabolism, which is also interesting because I've been listening to a podcast interview with Ben Bigman.
Oh yeah, love him. I love him.
I love him, but I was kind of back and forth with my nutritionist friend about ketogenic diets, because I've done keto and low carb, and I think it's actually made me hypoglycemic.
What did you do keto for a long time?
Yeah. Keto low carb for probably 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, no, I don't. I do a lot of vegetables. I do a lot of nuts. I do a lot of, so.
Yeah. But you have all these people pushing keto. And, so he was talking about how, the body will waste the keto, basically waste energy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like thinking, okay, well, that's not really a good thing. Like if you want your body to be in homeostasis, you don't want to be wasting energy.
Right.
So I'm still trying to wrap my head around all these pieces of the puzzle that people are telling us that are kind of swinging us back. When I go back to that first slide about discernment and nature and balance, and I think I've screwed up my system and made myself hypoglycemic, but I also had a major stress event in my life, losing John.
Right.
And, I think I'm still not fully recovered from that.
Can you exercise more?
Okay. So then I'm going to tell you, so my blood sugar was low a couple of times today. So, and I was like, okay, I got to eat something. And I had the dextrose from that Dr. Stevens thing that I was doing. So I took a little dextrose, and then my blood sugar went to 156. And I was like,
oh my gosh.
So I said, I'm going to go walk out to the end of the driveway and come back. And I kid you not, I wasn't gone 8 minutes. I walked out and back, and my blood sugar was down to 95.
Okay, good.
So I'm thinking, okay, well, you should never take the dextrose if you're not ready to move. Move immediately. And I was ready to move immediately. And somebody called and said, can you get on the phone? Can you get on? I was like, I should have said, no, I got to go walk for 8 minutes.
Well, actually, I shouldn't say exercise. Can you just lift weights? Just like doing squats.
I do yoga and body weight, like with my body weight.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And all that. I do yoga 5 times a week.
Okay. Then I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
If you're hypo, I would have said that it was you needed to exercise. But if you're doing yoga 5 times, I'm doing yoga
5 times a week, and the weather hasn't been great, but when the weather is good, I'm walking 3 miles a day. So I get up in the morning, I walk 3 miles, but I don't walk during the middle of the day. And so I'm like, okay, I think this trick of if you eat a bite of food, you need to go move for even just 5 minutes. Walk down to the corner and come back. Because that tells your body, okay, they're using this for fuel. Don't, although for me, I don't know if it's would be turning it into fat. I don't I have to dig more into the hypoglycemic, but I'm actually working with that nutritionist I was telling you about. to try to get some of the nutritional compounds from Dr. Nieper's son, still makes the mineral salts. And I had to fill out all this paperwork for being a practitioner, which I don't practice, but I am a root cause protocol practitioner. So we'll see. But she also was refilling out the paperwork. She didn't know that his son had, had taken over and was still doing this. So anyway, I'll let you know how those work. But the description of what he talks about in there, I was like, I think this will make a big difference. And I also ran out of one of the bean minerals for a month. And so that may have been part of it too. But
Okay.
But that, that shouldn't affect, I don't think that should affect my blood sugar. I think I'm not eating enough food. So I think I went through all the, the metabolic reset and, did the keto camp for two years. And, when John was around, life revolved around food. What are we having next? What's our next meal? There was always food.
Yeah.
Now I live by myself and it's like, oh, it's 2 hours past lunchtime and I haven't fixed lunch because nobody's saying, where's the food? And I'm like, I'm kind of hungry, but I need to finish this other thing. So I finish this other thing and then it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Well, we are now doing Green Chef, because and we got it so it's organic, and it's just the first one I've tried, but that has helped a lot because I don't have time to watch the kids and have any other life. And so if I want to work out or anything, but that you might think of that because I have several single friends that are women that are doing that. And I have a coupon if you want to try it.
Okay, well, send it to me. Maybe I'll try it. The tough thing for me with any of those things is because I live 1.5 miles up the road from my mailbox. And, when things get delivered.
Isn't it FedEx? Is FedEx, don't they come to your door?
The FedEx guy's even worse.
Oh, no.
Well, I get all these random people. Like once I have a FedEx guy who knows, he takes it to my neighbor at the bottom of the hill and sits it on his porch. And my neighbor calls me and says, Martha, you have a FedEx package. But sometimes they head over to my bridge and you have to cross this 1-lane bridge with no sides on it. And people go, I'm not going over that. And so I've had them leave the box just there leave the box on my trash cans, leave the box by the bridge. Well, anyway, it's not ideal.
Yeah. Well, I can send you the
info.
Coupon. And then or email. And what is your best email?
It's martha.carlin@thebiocollective.com. So that's THEBIOCOLLECTIVE.com.
Okay.
Bye, Gayle. She left. Okay. Let's see.
So I won't say anything to our friend Mark then. So
well, I would try to maybe
the only thing is they live in Michigan. I'm now in Illinois, and they come out and they're ski friends. So but the other thing,
try to make the subject come up about just being healthy.
Yeah.
And maybe he'll bring it up. And then you can,
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Chris? You got to unmute again.
On the keto, where does the use of keto with neurological diseases and diagnoses like epilepsy, where does that fit into your concern about, where does that fit in for you? I know you've had a concern about the keto, low carb keto. Now, the diet, I think it was 1970s or 80s where they discovered that.
It's great. It's phenomenal for epilepsy and I I need to go back and reread a book called The Fourth Fuel, which
Okay.
the researcher who was at NIH doing a lot of work on ketones and the brain.
Oh, right.
I think the problem is not keto per se. It's maybe how I did keto,
Mm-hmm.
where I look at, like, I was looking at the Walls Protocol cookbook this week, and actually that the last 2 weeks I've gone to the grocery, I've gotten things for Walls Protocol recipes. And she talks about like keeping herself in ketosis, but she's
Right.
eating a ton of vegetables.
Oh, 9 platefuls or so.
Yeah.
I mean,
So,
no, yeah.
I think, and what she's doing is she's addressing that lack of nutrient density and the need to get the nutrition.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting because, I first heard about it from Dr. Perlmutter, who was using it directly, was making the association between Parkinson's and other brain problems, and knew that, and that was 15 years ago. So yeah, I hear you though. I hear what you're saying, but I also
I just don't know about long term, because I know from everything that I've looked at that there is a problem with nitrogen. And most people who do a ketogenic diet are also very high protein.
Yes, right.
And a real ketogenic diet is very high fat.
Fat, yes, for
very
the
high
epileptic kids, it's fat, yeah.
And it's not that much protein.
Yeah,
it's
right,
protein.
exactly, yeah.
And the way people do keto now, and they think of carnivore, it's a lot of protein.
Right.
And, again, I'm not a nutritionist, but I see all the pieces of this nitrogen puzzle in Parkinson's, and the nitrogen cycle is broken. They're wasting nitrogen. And then, I also think Lori Mishley's diet recommendation is both Terry Walls, who focuses on keto, but she's very specific about the meats. And, I think much more of the caloric profile of her diet is like fats and fibers, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of the way keto is practiced, keto and low carb, it starves the microbiome. And
right.
When the microbiome is starved, it starts to eat you.
Right. Yeah, that I do think it's the way these things are practiced. It's because Okay, just wanted to say one more
frankly, the easiest way to practice it is to, eat a steak every night. People think, okay, I'm going to eat a steak and then I'm eating keto. And yeah, you are, but I just don't know that that's, people have but they also have weight loss, and people with Parkinson's don't need weight loss.
No. Right. Yeah. Well, I also wanted to thank you for teaching about the surfactants tonight, because we had a bunch of questions about that in some former book clubs and sugar shift nights. It was a great presentation. I learned a lot. I look forward to getting a PDF. I did take pictures, but it's so important and so related to all this glycocalyx focus that we have for health. So thank you.
You're welcome. I wasn't that smooth on the presentation because I didn't put it together myself, but I think I did.
It was very smooth.
I'll give myself maybe an A- or a B+. And I have one more question from Leslie, and then I think one more question from Mary, and we'll wrap it up. It's hard to get that little mute button off. Thank you, Rebecca. I saw some other people on here earlier. I don't know if they're still on here, but one of my, oh no, he's not on here anymore, I don't think. One of my very best friends who passed away in 2020 of lung cancer. Her father comes on here sometimes, but he doesn't have a microphone, so he never talks. But I see her dad on here, and I love to see him. He's actually a retired veterinarian PhD, and we, together when she was sick, we're really trying to work on like how to help her with the cancer and the. You can't figure out how to unmute it, Leslie?
Got it. Sorry.
Okay. There you go.
Actually, my question was that I just wanted, since you brought up the keto and that sort of thing, when you guys were going to start the whole metabolic reset thing, I just wanted to know if you wouldn't mind just briefly recapping how you felt about doing that.
So it was interesting. I don't think Jen's on here tonight, but she had another event. But Jen actually has some really interesting feedback from it because it really messed up her GI tract.
Oh, wow.
It caused her to have some pretty bad constipation that took several months to really get straightened out.
Mm.
And so, we talked a lot about that. I also think I'm looking back now at my blood sugar numbers, and I think my blood sugar numbers have been too low for a long time in doing this long-term keto, that maybe 80 is not an ideal place where you want to be. I think maybe you need a little bit more than 80. Or maybe I do. I don't know. But when I would go to those pretty narrow eating windows, I mean, my blood sugar would be 75, 70.
Wow.
That's probably not, I mean, that, it's probably not good to have blood sugar, just like it's not good to have blood sugar high. It's probably not good to have blood sugar low. Obviously I'm not going into a diabetic coma at 70, but 70 is probably not enough juice for as much as I am sparking off thoughts in my head all day long.
Well, and I had done it, Leslie, and I just felt like it was more of a caloric restriction when you had those time windows and stuff like that. And I went into it and I wasn't planning on losing weight. I lost like 5 pounds, and I really haven't gained it back. But when I lost the weight, it kind of started me to working out more and lifting weights and stuff like that. So it was a good thing for me. But I did not have any GI issues with it at all.
It seemed like it was, as far as the keto portion, from what I could see. I didn't start it because I was starting radiation at the time and was going to start it afterwards, and I never finished reading up on it to follow it. But from what I could see, it looked like it was a very prescribed keto program, as well as the intermittent fasting combined. So I was just curious if what the the final consensus was over it.
I call it torture. I thought it was torture. That's
what
what
I would say. When I talk about stress, I'm gonna talk about eating stress also, eating too much all the time or fasting too much. And I think in particular, the fasting too much has more of an effect on women.
I agree.
I think, there was too much fasting. There's, the windows, the window of eating is too narrow. And that sort of got me into a habit of eating in these very narrow windows. Mm-hmm. And, which is just like another excuse for me not to be eating. But But I'm not losing, I'm not losing a bunch of weight.
Yeah, well, I have a friend that's saying she's really trying to lose weight, and I'm trying to get her just to eat 3 meals a day because she's doing this intermittent fasting crap.
See, I think that for me, I didn't lose weight because too much fasting actually slows down your metabolism to preserve your energy.
That's, oh, yeah.
And so I actually, there's another crazy diet group of people that I listened to some of their discussions about going on a real high calorie, high carb diet, like 4,000 calories a day of carbs, and they lost all this weight. Well, they lost all this weight.
So it's cycling. They're cycling.
Yeah. So,
well, I don't do, I've been doing intermittent fasting, but not like heavy duty. I usually do 16 to 18 hours, and I know I don't do it every day. I figure if I get 3 days of 16 a week, that's not bad, or 18 even, once or twice a week. But I'm not real strict on it, and certainly what I'm I'm overeating probably during the I mean in general, but I just tried to do a little better and trying to make changes slowly.
One of the other things that's unrelated to the keto diet that I also started looking at, because my blood sugar's been kind of erratic, is and I'll probably do a discussion on this, is non-native electromagnetic frequencies, your cell phone, the 5G towers, because I started having this sort of erratic blood sugar not long after I replaced my old iPhone, and I had like a, iPhone 12 or 11 or something, and I now have the iPhone 16. And I bought, just this past week, I ordered an EMF so I can measure the EMF. And what I noticed when I turned it on and put it by my phone is that my phone is pulsing.
Wow.
So it is, it goes along, it's safe, and then it pulses unsafe. And I think, pulsing frequencies are actually probably more stressful. But blue light is also, blue light can raise your glucose levels, and also Bluetooth. So I think I talked about one other time, the people who wear the CGMs, the fact that they have a needle in their arm that is Bluetooth can actually raise glucose.
I never thought of that with the CGM. Never thought of it. Good point.
I've been using CGMs lately.
It measures glucose oxidase, which I'd have to go. I went down a deep rabbit hole on that 1 week trying to figure out, okay, like, how's this working? Because there's some connection to glucose oxidase and glyphosate, but I don't remember what it is. So anyway, that's my latest rabbit hole. Oh, do we have Norma Jean? Do you?
Yes. Whoops. Yes. I just wanted to say, I had been talking about how I was having trouble sleeping for, I can't tell you how many years. And I tried Simple Slumber and it didn't work. And I started doing the Perfect Peace and I felt better. I actually got grounding sheets. And I have to say, I almost always sleep right through the night.
That is great news. What I will say is, grounding sheets are great. Are you plugging them in the wall?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is like you.
Well, they just have a grounding plug. They don't have anything else. It's a company called Ground Lux.
You have to make sure that your electricity in your house is well grounded, or you'll get because I actually had a problem with grounding sheets because my electricity isn't properly grounded. And this happened to me twice in 2 different houses where I put a grounding mat under me to sleep, and I started having joint pain. And I was like, why am I having this joint pain? And then I was like, maybe it's the grounding mat. And I got rid of the grounding mat and the joint pain went away. And then I, moved into this house and I was like, okay, I'm going to try the grounding mat again. And I started having the joint pain again. And one of the coaches in Ben's group has done a lot of research on this, and you can actually have like electricity from your walls flowing into your mat if your house isn't properly grounded, which is probably what's happening to me. But it sounds like for you, if you're having that good of a night's sleep, you probably don't have a problem with the electricity in your wall.
Yeah, it actually came with a tester to test before you plug it in.
Okay, and what's it called?
Ground Lux. It's all one word, GROUNDLUXE. And I liked him so well that I bought, like, they have pillowcases also. So since my motorhome has a weird size mattress, I bought pillowcases for the motorhome, and I bought a grounding mat for my dad. So it's supposed to also make your arthritis better. So it's weird that yours made your joint pain worse.
Well, I don't have joint pain except when I'm laying on that mat.
When you're using the grounding mat. Well, that's not a good thing.
I think it's the electricity in my house. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll have to try that one maybe.
Okay. That, and like I said, I still am using the perfect piece. So
that's kind of become my new favorite.
I think it's my new favorite. I make yogurt out of it too.
So I'm interested in that because I tried twice to make yogurt and my yogurt didn't turn out. So I don't know if it was me, what I did that time. But so then people were asking me, can I make yogurt with this? And I would say, well, no, because I tried twice and it didn't work. And then I had other people tell me that they were making yogurt with it. And I was like, okay, well, it must work.
Well, I have to tell you, I haven't been able to make sugar shift yogurt lately because my sugar shift hadn't been working well. And I think during shipping, because I had gotten like a bunch of bottles, and I think that they somehow got damaged because every bottle that I made with that.
Well, send them back. Just write info@biotiquest.com and tell Bill.
I've just been taking them as taking sugar shift, so I don't know if they're working for that or not.
Yeah,
but I can't make yogurt out of them. So
well,
that's
now mine actually is making yogurt, but it makes more like cheese.
Yes, that's came out like. But I used
okay.
to make,
Well, that means they're alive, but they might be like too alive.
All right.
Like,
well,
I don't know. But there are certain times of the year where, for me, it does. Like, there's no way I can do a 36-hour ferment. I have to watch it and pull it somewhere between like 10 and 12 hours. And I watch for any signs that the whey is forming. And then I put it in the fridge. So I don't know what that is about certain times of the year, because other times of the year it can go for 36 hours, no problem. Perfect, beautiful. But it seems like it's more in the winter time when I have the shorter cycle. I mean, microbes have a mind of their own.
Yeah. Well, I had never had a problem with doing the sugar shift yogurt previously. And then, I don't know, there was this one shipment that I got all these bottles. And like I said, I just, I actually ordered a bottle of sugar shift off of Amazon. And when that came, I was like, it's in the plastic bottle. So how old is it? So I'm going to try it again. But that's, like I said, I was getting ready to leave on this trip, and I'm in the motorhome, so I don't really have a mailing address.
So
anyway.
We make the plastic bottle for Amazon because it was breaking, but we're actually this year going to go back to making all glass, even on Amazon.
Good.
Just because I don't like the plastic bottle.
Yeah, I don't either.
But
I'll let you know. I'll let you know when I try to make yogurt the next time with the Amazon bottle that I bought. See if
okay.
it works.
Also, I like the flip tops, but I just change my top every time.
Oh,
Okay.
Luckily, I have two, but I need it. It's like not all of them have them.
yeah.
So check out the grounding sheet. See if you or if you know anybody else who wants to try that. since
Right.
you were. Anyway,
Well, thank you everybody for coming tonight. We have worn people out again and people have gone to the end. Thanks for sticking with me. It's good to see the regulars back. There's a few regulars I did not see tonight. So I'll have to be checking up on them and see where they are. Lots of new stuff coming down the pike this year. We are